What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr Wargames, bringing you our next episode of budget building, and this one we have Dark World. So Dark Worlds are a much more aggressive style deck. They can be very control orientated as well by being able to hand loop your opponent, which is absolutely disgusting. So this is all done on a very tidy budget. All you're going to need is 3 structure decks and then a little bit of investment into your extra deck in order to keep it up and running with everything else. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. The more you like this video, the more it shows appreciation to this kind of series and this type of video, and I'll be bringing you more like it in the future. So with all of that out of the way, let's dive headfirst into the profile and show you everything we've got. So with triple rainbow, these all come in the structure deck. So I'm going to show you all the cards that come in the structure deck first, and then I'll show you the cards you might want to need to invest in for the main deck, side deck, extra deck, you name it. So pretty standard lineup on all of this. Sometimes you'll play 3 Grepher, sometimes you'll play 2 Rainbow. It really depends on how you want to play it. But we've gone with a 3 Rainbow, 3 Genta, 3 Snow, and 2 of the Grepher. We've then got the 1 Cerulean, the 1 Gold, 1 Silver, and the 1 Beige. Now, the reason I play the ones of everything, this is just my personal play style. Some people do like to play Lucian, some people do like to play 2 Cerulean. It's entirely up to you. But the reason I've got 1 Silver and 1 Gold is Silver is my go first card that helps me hand loop, and then Gold is my go second card that helps me pick boards apart by destroying 2 cards. The beige is in here because we're not playing as many dangers because they're actually quite expensive. Mainly Danger Nessie and Jackalope, which do not feature in this profile, and quite a few people don't like the RNG factor of dangers as well. So you've got a nice bit of a balance, and most of those cards do come in the structure deck. The last of the Dark World cards is 2 Gates with 1 Archives and 1 Accession. You can bump up Accession. It's probably the only other one that I would arguably consider bumping up. In my personal opinion, I prefer to play triple Genta and 2 Gates rather than 3 and 3, because if you see a Gate without the right cards in the hand, it's completely useless. Whereas if you see Genta in the hand with 1 other Dark World, you're in a very good position because that gets you your full combo. Whereas Gate plus a Dark World doesn't give you combo. It's a little bit disappointing. Yes, there are times when you can bounce the Genta back and then technically use Genta again to get the 3rd Gate and then try and push for another draw and another banish. So that's entirely down to player preference. Me personally, like I've said, I prefer 3 Genta and 2 Gates. So that's it for the Dark World monsters. Carrying on with the other cards that are inside the structure decks. So we do have double Bigfoot and a single Thunderbird. Now you can play 1s and 1 if you want to. The reason you'd play 1 and 1 is you're kind of betting that you're always going to go first. What I like about these is that they can be triggered off of a card called Trade-In, and that will give you automatically the ability to pop a face up or pop a set card. It's going to be more important to pop set cards when you do play Book of Eclipse, so depending on how reliant you'd get on Book of Eclipse, you might want to go with 2 Thunderbird and 1 Bigfoot, or vice versa. Then also we've got 2 Mothman and the 1 Sukanoko. These are the only dangers that we are playing because we are, outside of the structure deck, playing 2 Salamander Catalyzers, purely because these act like a danger. If you don't want to play Salamander, another option you do have is the Cheerful Coffin. These are both cards that allow you to discard monsters as effects, and that will then trigger the dangers and the Dark World. So you're going to get the benefit of both of those, and it's just a cheaper alternative, considering that Salamander and Coffin are probably like £1 each at max, and then Nessie and Jackalope are like £10 each, so you've cut your budget by like £27, which is insane, and it still does a very good job. So that's it for what is in the structure deck. Moving to what isn't in the structure deck for the main deck. We've gone with triple Gandala. We've just gone with 3 level 8 Kaijus, and the Gandala is the cheapest one that came out in the Trap Trick structure deck. Of course, if you have access to Gameciel, you can play that one as well, as it does have a much weaker attack, but you should be pretty good in order to deal with this, especially when you've got Gate of the Dark World, because all of your Dark Worlds will be buffed. Another personal option for me is my normal summon of the deck, and my normal summon is Fairy Tail Luna. Now, if you don't play Luna and you don't want to play the Kaijus, you can very easily play Lava Golem. Again, it's a level 8 that can get ditched off a trade-in. The additional bonus of a Lava Golem is the fact that it's Fiend as well, so it can be discarded or banished off of Gates of the Dark World. But what I quite like about Luna is the ability of being able to loop back Cerulean like twice. Now what I mean by that is Luna going first or second is a very good interactive card because on normal summon it lets you search out another copy of itself, so it replaces your hand advantage. And then it has the quick effect to target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and then you can return both Luna itself and the card you targeted back to the hand. Your opponent can send a card of the same name from their extra deck or main deck to the graveyard to negate that effect. The reason this is so good is going first, if I give my opponent Ceruli, I can then normal summon Luna, use Luna's effect to return the Ceruli back to my hand and return the Luna. Then if I'm able to discard the Ceruli again, that's how I'm able to quickly complete a hand loop of at least 4 cards. Not to mention when you get to the extra deck, you do have a Cash-Eat Magician, which can bounce Ceruli one more time and do it all again. The normal summon can also be Fabled Raven if you want to go down a synchro route. And like I said, you have pretty much ultimate options. You can play a very cool one-ofs engine, and what I mean by that is you can play Armageddon Knight, you can play Phantom Skyblaster, you can play Tour Guide, you've got Neko Main King, you've got so many different options, which is why I think it's really cool. I just quite like the little synergies that Luna has that a lot of people don't even think about. And then, of course, we've got the 2 Salamander Catalyzers. So these basically are replacing the Nessie. But like I said, you do have Cheerful Coffin as another option. The reason Salamander is pretty cool is that with another Fiend, when you look at Beige, it's an instant, this plus Beige equals a rank 4, which can be Daguerreo's, which can trigger more of your Dark World cards and draw you more cards as well. So it gives you a couple of options. But if you're like, you know what, I don't want to rely on using Salamander as it is a hard once per turn, I can use Cheerful Coffin, which lets me discard up to 3 and trigger effects, then you can do as well. The last one is the Zephyros the Elite. You kind of want to just get this to the graveyard. You don't really ever want it in your hand unless you're being able to control discard, and that's when you're going to get stuff off the Geras and then off the Danger Reveals as well. For the draw cards, we have 2 trade-ins. Now with the trade-ins, you actually have, I believe it is, so 3 Kaijus plus 3 Dangers. So you've got 6 there, plus the 3 Rainbow is 9, and then the 2 Greffers is 11 targets for your trade-in. Trade-in will not trigger the effects of the Dangers, the Dark Worlds of Rainbow and Greffer, but it will trigger the effects of the Dangers of Bigfoot and Thunderbird, so you can pop back rows as and when you see fit. One very important thing to mention about the Dangers is that they just need to be discarded. They don't have to go to the graveyard, and trade-in just discards as cost. It doesn't have to go to the graveyard. So all of them can be activated under something like a Rise Heart, and that's why trade-in plus Bigfoot is so good, is you can activate trade-in, discard the Bigfoot, draw 2 new cards, and then the Bigfoot will trigger to try and pop the Rise Heart, meaning that you're no longer locked out with all of this no graveyard plays. We've then got 2 Allure of Darkness. Now again, if you want to, the other 2 cards we play is Book of Eclipse. So if you don't want to play Allure of Darkness, you can go 3 and 3 and up the consistency of those ones. I quite like a 2 and 2. The best thing with an Allure is you can actually Allure off a Genta. As long as you control a Dark World card, you can special summon it back. Keeping in mind that Genta cannot be activated under Rise Heart because it has to go to the graveyard as cost. So if Rise Heart is active, you're not able to draw, you're not able to activate the Genta until you get rid of it. And that's why Allure can come into play quite nicely, because you can activate or normal summon a Dark World card, then activate Allure, and then still find a way to banish the Genta to then bring it back to go into a rank 4, which can be Baguska. It can also be a way into Zeus if you want to increase your budget. Zeus does not feature in this profile because it is an expensive card at this moment in time, but if you already have it and you're like, cool, I want to look at another aggressive option, this is one of the decks for you. Moving on to the extra deck, so we do play 2 of the Greffer Dragon. This card's just absolutely insane, really love it for the deck. It's one of them ones that can protect from Nibiru, it's one of them cards that early doors can protect as well. Not to mention, the fact that it makes you discard triggers off the secondary effects of all of your Dark Worlds is really cool. Now with the extra deck is where most of the money is going to be spent, because you're looking at something like an Underworld Goddess for about £3, Boral Sword as an aggressor, and then you've got the World Z Dragon Zelantis, which is surprisingly relatively cheap. I would advise everyone, whether you're playing Dark Worlds or not, to pick this card up. Like, it's £4.50. I would definitely be making sure I've got 1 if not 2 of this card, because it may become relevant in the future. Now, I will explain again the combo of the World Sea Dragon Zelantis with the Muckraker from the Underworld. Now, Muckraker is about a £7 card, but for a deck like this, it's definitely worth getting. And what works so well with these 2, which is why I like it, and a lot of people, if you're new to Dark Worlds, won't know this, is you make the World Sea Dragon. Quite often, what you'll do is you'll make Saruja the Skulldred, you'll draw 4, you'll special summon a new monster down, and then you'll turn Skulldred into the World Sea Dragon. Then what you do is you get another monster to the board, you link into a Muckraker from the Underworld. Use Muckraker's effect to discard a card, to then bring back a Fiend monster, inadvertently locking you into Fiend monsters. You cannot special summon monsters except Fiends. The reason that World Siege Atlantis works so well is because it makes you, the player that is activating it, special summon back the monsters. Not both players, just you. So if you activate World Siege Atlantis and you banish the entire board, it will only allow you to bring back Fiend monsters, meaning you can bring back the Dark World you've summoned off of the Muckcracker, you can bring back Muckcracker itself, but you cannot bring back any of your opponent's monsters. So their board, unless they have Fiends, is completely emptied, and then straight off the back of that, you're going to have Muckcracker, plus the Dark World you've brought back, not to mention possibly another Dark World you're going to have on the board. All of those Dark Worlds can be bounced back to bring out a Rainbow or bring out a Grepher, which if you've got the field spell in play, straight away is like 6,300 damage on board, and then you're going to have a Muckcracker which is sitting at 1,300. So you only need to get a little bit more damage on that board to complete the game, not to mention discarding a card of something like Silver or Gold will allow it to be special summoned back and be even more aggressive when you're activating the effect of the Muckcracker. We've then got Appaloosa as your defensive link for Nightmare Unicorn, followed by a Cross Sheep, because it's very easy to fuse not only during your turn, but during your opponent's turn as well, and trigger Cross Sheep's effect. So you can bring back a Fiend monster during your opponent's turn, you can bring back a Fiend monster during your turn, and then that's how you can bounce them back to the hand, and then get back more stronger monsters in the form of stuff like Grepher, and of course, Rainbow. For the final link monster, we do have the Akashic Magician. Now this is being made in order to bounce a Ceruli, so make sure when you're Cerulean or when you're Kaiju in, you're trying to put the Kaiju in front of the extra monster zone, because you're playing something like Akashic Magician. Being able to activate this effect to bring it back to the hand means you can Kaiju again, or means you can Ceruli again as well. Then onto the XYZs, probably the most expensive XYZ that we have is Coach King Giant Trainer. This is about £10 a copy, but it's actually really, really good for a go first option because it gives you that ability and even a game free option for TimeCon. So you can detach one material at a time to draw a card and reveal it. If it's a monster, your opponent takes 800 damage. If it's not, you don't take any damage at all. You can't conduct the battle phase the turn you activate this effect, but you can use his effect up to 3 times per turn. So you're going to be making this with one of your dangers plus like Grepher or Rainbow or just a mixture of your level 8s. Once you make him, ideally, unless you're going to get Veiled or Impermed, you're detaching 3 materials, you're burning your opponent from an average of about 2,400 damage, because it is quite consistent when only you play like 8 or 10 spells, so 3/4 of your deck is going to be monsters anyway. Those monsters can be dangerous to help you extend further, and the idea is that you're going to be burning your opponent for 2,400, you're going to be drawing 3 more cards, you're going to be reducing your opponent's hand size down to like 1 if not 2 cards, and going further from there. You've then got Hope Harbinger as your defensive option as well. You can play Numeron Dragon for the OTK route. You can play Zombie Stein. You can play Dingeres. You've got, Dingrisu. You've got so many different options. It's absolutely crazy. And then the last rank 4s we play is, of course, Baguska and Dingeres. Dingeres is obviously one of those last chance saloon options where you make this as a rank 4, detach a material from this, detach 2 materials from this, draw 2 cards, discard 1. So that's how you're going to trigger another Dark World, because you're discarding as effect, not as cost. It also lets you put the card you want in the graveyard and discards more cards, plus it's a Fiend. And so is Baguska. So Baguska is one of the ones that if you do get de-shifted, if you do get stunned, being able to get into Baguska can let you just pretty much set on it and build up your hand advantage until you're under or out of that floodgate. Another card that can make both of these more consistent and the Hope Harbinger is an Astral Kuriboh if you wanted to invest in some of these. And the reason this is pretty good is that it means that both of these can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. By your opponent's card effects. But it just gives you a very easy way of, like, any level 4 plus this gives you a rank 4. And if you're desperate for a draw, you go Dingeres. If you're going for a lock, you go for Baguska. On the side of that as well, if you did play the Numeron Dragon, this can become a level 8, so it gives you more consistency to get into the Numeron Dragon and push for that OTK. And that is pretty much it for the profile. So I've tried to keep this as budget as possible, which is why there is not an IP Masquerena, because my god, the market is crazy on that card right now. Considering that card has had an original Ultra print, a Starlight print, obviously can't really count that, a Secret Megatins reprint, a gold reprint of the original art, and a gold reprint of its alternate art, is still sitting at about £20 a copy. And I've even seen alternate art versions going for like £40, which is unbelievable. But You know, that is the game we play. So that's why IP is not in here. But like you saw from the main deck, we've actually cut it down. You don't even really need to spend more than probably about £10 on the main deck. And then when you're looking at the extra deck, that's when your money's going to be coming into play. But even then, we've tried to look at cards apart from the Giant Coach King and the Muckraker. Muckraker is probably more reliant to this deck than the Coach King, but both of those are £10 and £7 respectively. Everything else is £5 or less per copy. So, I hope this has given you a couple of ideas on your own build. Use it as a structure to learn around the deck. Anything that doesn't work for you, by all means, change it. If you're not a fan of dangers, you do have other options. Like I said, you can go Salamander. You can cut them out completely and go in for Cheerful Coffin. You can change up the trade-ins for more Book of Eclipses or anything else like that as well. Heck, even Regekis, Ash Blossoms, or Veilers. The reason that we don't have hand traps in this version is because it is very, very aggressive. Like if you're going first, you want to see all of your pieces in order to hand loop. And if you're going second, you kind of don't want to rely on one hand trap to be enough to try and stop your opponent. You just go, okay, cool. I'll Kaiju you, I'll Dark World you, I'll Danger you, and we'll push for an OTK. Anyway, hope you found this informative. If you do have any questions, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. For now, as absolutely always, guys, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. Showing appreciation to this video will allow me to do more like this in a budget orientation so that you are prepared for the next format without breaking the bank. As absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.